Hello, I'm Tyler Edlin with Adam Duff here again, and we'll be critiquing Brush Sauce Theater challenge number 8,
Yes.
Throne of
Yeah.
Decay.
And some pretty hardcore submissions. This is a very competitive episode because before we started recording, we're sitting there going, they're all amazing.
Wow.
They're all
Yeah,
amazing.
there's a lot of great
Whew.
ideas. A lot of presentation. Everybody up their
Yeah.
game. And so yeah, we have a lot to talk about. So we'll try to get through this. Let me get my stopwatch out here so we can try to time everyone's equally and keep moving the momentum
Yeah.
forward. So, all right, let's bring up Movco's
Mofos. Yeah,
first.
we'll go in book order here. So let's zoom in nice and close and get a good look at it. All right, go for it, Tyler.
Awesome idea. This piece captures, I think, successfully not only the idea of like an ancient throne, in a decaying situation, given how overgrown and remote this seems, but also the light and the atmosphere in this is also, I think, professionally
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Like I think, just speaking shortly, the only thing that maybe that would separate this from if you wanted to push it further is I wouldn't necessarily go for like a photographic photorealism with this because I think it has a lot of illustrative qualities that make it fantastic. But I still think there might be chances to use some photos, at least in the kind of like the foreground objects that you can kind of use photos and to get some detail on that
Hmm.
architecture or the leaves and the foliage, and then you could dial it back by using filters and then painting over them. But you can definitely bring out some of that detail in the foreground with
Yeah.
photos. But other than that, I think um, having the focal point is definitely that the elephant god statue's head thing. Like that's definitely clear and visible, and I like that, and it's definitely the most interesting part
Yeah.
about it. And then before I say everything, yeah, you definitely have the figure in there for scale, so
Yeah.
that's checked. So that's awesome. What are your ideas on this,
Well, I
Adam?
agree completely. The first thing that jumped out at me, especially when you see it big, is a beautiful use of scale. You know, that you really feel the grandeur of this. And the composition, because it's a nice closed bit of a claust, even though it's a big open space, the closed composition really makes you feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's an
Keeps
ancient
it in.
discovery. It really brings you in the world of, you feel like you found something that hasn't been seen in 10,000 years, you know? And
And I don't know about you, but I can just feel like the humidity and the
yeah,
moisture in the air, the way he did that
yeah,
atmosphere.
yeah. It's a very evocative piece of artwork. There's a beautiful mood to it. Apart from what Tyler said, I don't have anything to add to that. I think it's a
Like
beautiful piece of artwork, really.
I think this is a great example of subtle color
Yeah,
variety, and that we kind of talked
yeah,
about that from like the stiff color images in the past. Like if you just look up, like for instance, the sky area above that elephant's head, like there's lots of subtle green, yellow. Um, there's purple in there. There's a lot of subtle hue changes, and it's something more difficult to achieve. But when it's pulled off awesome like that, it really kind of shows, takes your work to a
yeah.
different level of professionalism, in
It
my
shows it
opinion.
has professional quality to it. It definitely does, you know. And this is a success in and of itself. But it's a painting that you can have fun, like Tyler said, toy around with it, try to add a little bit more detail, get more, add more decay, more richness to the scene in terms of detail. But this is a success. I'm not going to sit there and
Hmm.
go, "Ooh, nothing made me cringe. Everything made me go, I'm enjoying this a lot." So, you know,
He has great highlights and form on the main part of that trunk and the head, but I think just showing a little more of that in the shadow
mhm.
area, because you can see like there's a lot of density and there's definitely a lot of form there. I would just try to push that a
Hmm.
little more and then maybe clean up a little bit of the edges in the
Yeah.
foreground. But other than that, it looks
And you know what?
great.
Just yeah, as far as the form, to find that rounded form, it's treated a bit like a rim light, but you see how you're catching light here and catching light there. The light is coming from either from the top or from the back right, but it wouldn't necessarily catch. This makes it kind of flattens this form. It's not something that jumps out at you, but just from a technical perspective, try to find a little bit more rounded form. You did that in the trunk. You can see how the light travels around the
Hmm.
form, and the trunk here. Maybe try to look for that a little bit more.
Yeah, like have warmer type of maybe like skylights coming where that light is on the right, and then you could take those highlights on the left side of him, dial them down a couple notches, and then make a hue shift on them to like a cooler
Yep.
color. And I think the colors will really be singing in that
Yeah, it'll
regard.
bring a lot of energy into the piece too. Temperature energy more. Yeah,
Well, Awesome job,
Yeah,
man. Let's bring up the
two
next
thumbs
one.
up. All right. Oops. All right. So next we have your Marcus Harma. All right. Again, there's
Marcus
none
is
of these that made
back.
me go, okay, this person's starting off. All of them are pro. You know, this is a very impressive selection of
Yeah,
work
I
here.
like this one. Another that one's coming up grainy on mine. Okay, that's look better
Hmm.
now. Another awesome use of
Beautiful.
color,
First thing that jumps out at you is
right?
this whoever Marcus has excuse for my crassness, but you got balls when it comes to color. This is a very carefree, very energetic piece, and just your use of color right there is what makes this piece of artwork is the first thing that makes this piece of artwork a success. You know,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful stuff. Sorry about the trucks. There's been a lot of construction in my neighborhood lately, but yeah, yeah.
If I were going to make a few suggestions, I would say just in terms of like a throne room, design wise, it feels claustrophobic. Like it looks like the throne is literally just at the end of this rather tight
Mhm.
hallway, and that's more or less nothing wrong with the piece on a critical level. This is just more of like a dialogue about the design of a room as a throne room does it serve its purpose and whatnot and stuff like. Um, but other than that, like I would just think some adjustments to
Mhm.
contrast, like especially with you have. I mean, it looks like you have some nice contrast with the elements in the foreground being in the shadow and the dark, but I think they can just be pushed even
Yeah.
further. Um, and you could even you want to really just push the idea of that bounce
Right.
light even coming in on those walls on the interior because like if you play like some games like especially like The Last of Us where they really kind of overemphasize almost the bounce light in situations exactly
Mhm.
like this, you'll see what I mean. But yeah, it can you I think you already got that because it looks like the reds are like lit up on that interior wall where they'd be completely shut out and in darkness, but you do have them illuminated. But I think through color and a few value shifts that can even be further
Yeah,
enhanced.
absolutely. Just as
Yeah, when you start doing stuff like yeah, like what Adam did, you go into levels and
come in, like this is your focal area. You notice when I was looking at in black and white, we lost a lot of info. But just by pushing that full range
because
of contrast, look at how that pushes your focal point to this area and creates a deeper sense. It pulls you into the canvas, right? And
mm-hmm,
that was just a 2 second contrast adjustment. See?
yep,
Yeah, just like that. And like Tyler's saying, to bounce, if you love color, then bounced light and bounced color
everywhere.
is your little taste of heaven as an artist because it ties everything together. It creates this rich bounced energy that goes around and everything is bouncing off of everything, especially in an area in a scene like this that's so colorful. That's what
Yep.
ties all of these things together and doesn't make them look like it's just chair, wall, curtain, so on and so forth. That curtain is going to be bouncing on the wall. The red is going to be bouncing on the green. The green's going to be bouncing on the red, and you get this interplay of color. And the world's your oyster at that point, right?
But awesome
Oh,
job, dude.
absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal. All right,
I dig it.
all right,
All right, let's do next.
all right. So next in line we have our famous Jill Chavez, who is a tireless artist.
I know this guy never stops.
Another absolutely beautiful piece of artwork. So yeah, so go for it.
I think this one is definitely probably got one of my favorite
Mhm.
ideas, conceptually out of the whole lot here. There's a lot going on. Like, this is overgrown. You got like this fox that is taken over this really kind of tormented and messed up type of throne. I mean, it looks like it's kind of makeshift put together, like with a regular living room sofa chair with like the wood, and he's got the bones
Yeah,
and chains and like there's been a lot of thought, can be said to be put in the design of this, and then you get the light string up that are just singing with color, and then like there's arrows, there's like shot arrows. All I mean, I
oh,
don't
I didn't
even
even
know what
notice
their
that.
story is,
Holy yeah, yeah.
right?
Okay, I can see that.
So he's got that. It's overgrown. You got grates up like in the ceiling behind the throne, like almost like this is even in a
Yeah,
sewer. Like that's just making me question the idea even further. So it's like, whoa, like there's a lot
yeah.
going on here, and my only like nitpicks with it is he just didn't hit that kind of
Yeah.
color harmony that I was hoping he'd go for.
A little bit on the bland side. A little bit. It could use a punch of
Yeah,
color somewhere. Yeah, not everywhere, but it
you,
needs a bit of it for sure.
we just need to have Marcus's piece punch this a
Yeah,
couple times with some of
yeah.
that color, and this will be really working
Yeah,
out.
it's like again, like Tyler's saying. I know I keep repeating that, but Tyler pretty much nailed it. It's what I love about this is it's carefree imagination. One of my friends reminded me of Picasso's quote where he said, "It took me a couple of years to paint like this master artist, but it took me an entire life to paint like a child." Right? It was unlearning the technicalities and just going for it. Just grates and Christmas lights and Iron Throne and living room couch and a
Mm-hmm.
fox and our like, but all of this generates so many ideas. It generates so much thought. It's it's fun, and because we have such a feast for the eyes, this is fun. We and like Tyler said, give that punch of color. Bring in, because it's all very cool yellows, cool oranges, cool grays, all of that stuff. Add a punch of warmth and create a bit of a temperature balance and a few little fun plays of
Yeah,
color, and that whole piece is going to jump right off the page, right?
yeah, because it's like the whole thing wasn't even toned with color. Like there are parts where it's just black and then like white,
Right.
which you don't even like. If you're having a color painting, that's not some kind of stylized graphic or saying. But if you're having like an illustration like this, you probably want to get rid of that and have like full color in some degree or another throughout it, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
subtle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Adam said, this learning kind of to get that imagination or like that carefreeness that a child has when they paint. And I look at a lot of these because my fiance is like she teaches
Oh,
kids, in kindergarten through third grade, and I see things in their art that is like I like look at them and like I can't even do that
yeah,
with mine. Like the way that they approach things, it's something like to unlearn what you have learned type of
yeah,
thing, and to like get that back into your the level of sophistication you want in your art is a whole
yeah.
other challenge to begin with. But I think Hill really kind of nailed
Yeah.
that.
It's a feast for the eyes. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Awesome job, dude.
Awesome.
All right.
Visual stir.
Hey, we're doing good. We've got like about each of these down to about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. We're
Hey,
doing good
hey.
for consistency.
It's an effort on my part because you know how chatty I
Hans is
am.
back.
That's
He's
good.
bringing the thunder.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. And this one actually, in terms of just the whole theme and style of it, this really stands out. This is
This
more of a
is yeah.
hands-on,
This
right
is
in the action type of situation. Yeah.
I love that this one is I'd say a little different than some of the ones we've seen because this is definitely more along the lines of an illustration than like a pure
Yep.
concept. And when you have that approach to it, his style and his touch, he has that you can see he has that color
Yep.
sophistication in his characters with his
Mhm.
lighting and even his execution because most of this is very clean. And well, yeah, what do you think about it?
Definitely.
It's pretty good.
Absolutely. It's strong. The composition is very strong. It brings you right in on the action. As far as, again, big on visual storytelling, right? And visual storytelling, while the little details say so much, you have an idea of his personality and his visual connection with the snake because they both have the glowing eyes. They both have similar
Yep.
expressions. You have the fists up on the throne that show you that he's about his character is his strength, and everything in this scene dictates strength. I'm the powerful man. Nothing conflicts with that. The vertical composition, his muscles, his very laid back kind of like don't like I'm in charge. I'm a bit of a Mr.
Yeah,
Joe
he's
Cool type of
chill.
thing. Anatomically, I think just in terms of some of the anatomy, I would just look if you're not sure about certain things, the anatomy of arms and legs and stuff like that, feet. Look it up. Little, but it does look good, but it could use just a little bit of using up, grabbing some reference to get that
Yeah.
anatomy right would definitely make
I
a
think
difference.
because he has this kind of so refined to this level that something like that in terms of
Stands out.
polish it stands
Yeah,
out because it's already if you're already at like an 80%
yeah,
mark, I'd say you do like a whole other full pass on this and get things really cleaned up. Like just for consistency's sake, like look how you can see how rough like the area around the foot is, and then like some of the edge work within in the legs,
yeah.
and then it's good that it's all tied up a lot better around the head and the
Hmm.
chest. But you could just bring that level of consistency throughout it will really kind of
Yeah,
help. And I think in terms of tangents, you need a little bit room to breathe on this. So add a little to the composition on the right
Yeah.
side. You're kissing the edge a little bit
Hmm.
too much with the arm and then the snake and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and how the snake is also touching. It's whenever you see an intersection, like the contour of the character and the contour of the snake, you don't want that snake to be touching his contour. You want to either overlap or keep a bit of distance, right? But you don't want to do this because that plays around with depth. And it can screw around with the composition as well. Also, anatomically, if you look at his, just things you would catch naturally if you were looking up a reference, is you notice that his knees are pointing forward, but his feet are pointing out. So it gives him a bit of a goofy look, right? You want the knees and
Yeah,
feet to
it's
be
just a
in
little
line
too
together,
extreme.
right? Yeah, that shows strength
That
for
would physically hurt me very much to have my foot like
me.
that. I'm sorry, some people have the dexterity to do it. I do
Like my wife,
not.
who studied ballet her whole life, boy, she get on my case when I didn't do my positions properly, But yeah,
Awesome
beautiful
job though.
stuff. Beautiful stuff. All right.
I love it when just somebody could take like a whole different approach to the contest.
Yeah, it's
Where it's like that one is similar to this one where it's like
oh yeah.
very like it's like a classic fantasy illustration, whereas some people like myself would probably approach it in terms of like a piece of concept design. But this is awesome because it gives us a lot of variety and things to look
What
at.
a different approach to it's funny just your whole the whole perspective and the approach to it is very old school, yeah, old
Yeah,
school layout, like Diablo, right? You're looking at everything as kind of like it's almost like a game board type of setup with all the text, all the things.
yeah.
This brings me back to my D&D games.
Everything about this is kind of like retro
It really is,
fantasy,
man.
and it calls back to my childhood in the awesome ways. Like you'd see this when you'd open like a new game, like for Gauntlet or something. You open
Oh,
up the instruction manual, or look on the back of the case. You'd see like an image like
yeah.
this.
Yeah. Oh, this totally amazing. You said Gauntlet. I lost so many years of my life on that game, man. That's crazy. Arcades,
Yeah,
you kids. Okay, we used to have
and there's
arcade.
just like lots of little guys fighting giants and
Yeah,
insects, and then the giant
yeah.
snake. Like this throne room is in big trouble. The fires are starting.
It's making me think of Game of Thrones. You never know who's going to get it next. So yeah, what about critique? What kind of positive feedback could we give him?
I think if this was the exact type of mood and action shot, personally, I was going for, taking all this into account, I would have just chose a more dynamic camera angle.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit, it's a little too static, and like we're just kind of like slightly above all the
Yep.
action, kind of just gazing. Like I think in this situation, if we're like lower to the floor, you can really kind of look up and you see that snake peeking through up
Mhm.
there, and then you kind of have all the smoke and like all the figures kind of dancing through all like the flames and the ash. Like I think just bringing everything for me personally back down to like a level where you're kind of like looking up the stairs and you have all this that you got to fight for that throne
Right.
back. I think that would have just been a more powerful image
Yes, we,
overall.
we we lose the throne.
Something that you can't even really
Yeah.
fix at this stage unless you were going to start it over. But yeah, we win some, we lose some, right?
The busyness of this image makes it fun. We actually, even though the narrative is about the throne, right? But I mean, the throne is there, but it's a very minor feature of this piece, which is fine. That's not the end of the world. One of the things I'm noticing is that this is very much an exploration of light, right? Different light sources and illuminating different,
A lot of light
which is
sources.
great. It adds a lot of visual variety. It adds a lot of color and bounce, which is fun. I love that about it. It's what it
Like
gets.
the highlights on all the
Yeah,
figures that are tied to the various sources with their color is a great touch
yeah.
and something that I've always find necessary for this type of painting.
Completely, and it transports us into that world. That's why we felt that when we saw it. The only thing is, you are lighting these characters, but the characters in and of themselves are unclothed. There's no, they're basically they're gray statues that are all lit. But don't forget about the local color, right? Someone's going to be wearing this. Somebody's going to be wearing that. Somebody's going to be wearing that. This is definitely a very good practice in light, but don't forget that these light are falling on different colored objects, and these characters are clothed. There should be some sense of identity in them instead of just being these black figures, right? Um, yeah, and I would say you might have wanted to keep this kind of orthographic view, a bit of a bird's eye view of this, but if your intention was to create a sense of depth, you want to have some characters closer up in the foreground because everything is pretty much mid background, but just by
Which is hard to do at this angle, as I
yeah,
was saying.
yeah.
because we're just like up in the
That's the
rafters.
thing. But if you put like have a rafter come across the front, you know, like have a rafter of wood that's coming across the front that's dark because it's right up in front of our face, will force your eyes to look past it and see the action in the back, which will immediately create that sense of depth because you already have the opening with the monster behind it, which transports your eye into the back of the canvas. You need something to pull
Yeah.
you to the front to complete that whole depth of the piece, right?
Like the idea to sell a shot like this would be have if you're gonna have a camera up like this, you have it up in like some second floor balcony where there's also action going
Absolutely.
on, so you get that immediate
Yeah.
foregroundness. And then like the other thing, like the way the beams are situated overhead, it's almost kind of creating like this MC Escher
Yeah.
effect where the consistency of how that room is structured within the pictorial space is a little is a little
Yeah.
wonky. But other than that, I like your idea. I like your energy, and yeah, let's just go back and like just keep refining your
Yeah.
skills. You know,
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh,
you have like that snake is lit beautifully, and you know your ideas there. Let's just go back, spend some time at the drawing board, and then get images up to this level, and then you know just get your reference out that you need, and take lots of study like lots of like movies and movie stills and artists like Keke
yeah.
Katakai
Oh, yeah.
Kotaki, yeah, who have like those epic sweeping action
Yeah.
shots like that, and yeah, you'll be able to integrate that into your
Yeah.
work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just keep working on it. Keep
Uh,
having fun with this piece, but you're definitely in the right direction with it. It's absolutely.
awesome job,
Yeah.
dude.
Okay. I'm waiting for somebody who sucks, but I don't think we're going to get that today. All right. So let me see.
No,
Austin Abamonte.
Austin.
Okay.
Austin is up.
All right. I love this piece. I love it. You go first, though. I'm just going to smile for.
Yeah, this one is entirely selling the mood and the atmosphere of this piece. This is something like you'd see, and there's a lot of, even though it's very kind of dark and even almost heavy-handed with that, there's still enough color variety in this that this something like this would probably be used for like a color key on a film or a short or
Yeah.
something like that, or even a game like sequence. It'd be more given how rough it is, because this is a rough image. I think it would be used kind of more along those contexts. So. With that said, Adam, how do you feel about it?
What I love, and you don't, it's not every artist can pull this off, is that it's 100%. Even though we're looking at architecture, we're looking at windows, we're looking at a throne. This is 100% mood piece. This really brings me back to classical painting.
Yeah,
You know? It's all mood. I'm sitting in there and I can feel I can smell this atmosphere. I love it. And this to me, the reason I'm saying classical is because if you paint with traditional paint, oil or or acrylic, you can get this very ghostly render type of feel, this very Leonardo da Vinci, type of feel where everything feels like it's got a bit of a glow to it, but not because you put a glow filter, just because of your brushstroke is very soft and moody. I love that. Now, in terms of and just the composition and everything, I'm transported into this, and the colors
it's very
very
cinematic.
cinematic. Like I know what to expect. I know how I feel as a viewer walking into this space. Now, in terms of rendering, you decide what's my focal point, and that's where you start to come in and add some higher contrast, some sharper edges, but only where you need it. Like maybe the throne and the slightly surrounding area around the throne is where you want your audience's eye to go first. Focus there and leave the rest of the painting as is. Don't touch it. Keep that as kind of like an area of focus for the painting, and
Hmm.
and that will sell the whole painting. You don't have to push detail. You don't have to push refinement past that. But you might want to find some hard edges to create more to help draw the eye a little bit more.
I I think having the silhouette too of some characters in that foreground left area would also help a piece like this as
Yeah.
well.
If you,
Just get them kind of in there to kind of make it like a story shot.
yeah, yeah, and also push the sense
Optional
of
is something
scale
I would
too.
do. Scale never
Yeah,
hurts. But yeah, really
yeah,
cool.
I love it.
Yeah, I look at, if you want ideas too in terms of like the level to push a lot of the detail in this, look up some of Nathan
What?
Fox's color
Yeah,
keys. He does a lot of them for
yeah,
DreamWorks, and I think you could use that as a good place to gauge where you should aim, like your detail on something like
that's a
this.
very good point. And with Nathan Fowkes, you can see in his work that he is primarily a colorist. That really is his thing. And what he uses is he uses many colors. It's almost like a bit of a Seurat type of approach, the juxtaposition of different colors to create a vibration of color. When you look at it close up, it just looks like random abstract. Marco Bucci is also a good
Yeah,
example.
it's pretty intense.
It's random abstract shapes, but when you zoom back, oh, you realize you're looking at a scene, and what that does is you take this and you just pump it with energy and vibration. Color is a vibration. It's not just a flat cartoon color. You can do that. This is the type of artwork that merits that type of rendering, right?
Well, yeah, like in those pure dark areas, maybe go up one layer in value in terms of lightness, but and then you make that darkness sing with about 8 different little subtle colors
Absolutely.
that make up that
Yep.
area. But as long as it stays in the correct value range, that's all that
Value
matters.
temperature. Just remember that. You look at this thing is red, but it can be purple, red, orange, green, blue, all within that same value range, and all of a sudden that red is going
Temperature.
to turn into delicious red. But you're not losing the mood.
Yep.
You're actually enhancing the mood, right?
And again, this is it's one of the hardest things in my opinion, to achieve when you're painting digitally or even
Yeah.
traditionally is getting that not only a sense of color harmony, but getting the colors to really kind of vibrate and sing like
Yeah.
that is really
It
hard to
requires
do.
letting go. Trusting yourself, trusting your instincts. That's really the side of color that everybody struggles with because you can't rely on technique so much. You have to rely on your intuition. So just do
And
it. Don't
feeling.
be brave and do it. Throw purple in, throw orange in, see what happens. Worst case scenario, delete, right? But do it.
Yep. Yep.
You
We got
have to you have
layers.
to feel color to be able to use color effectively. That's the real essence of being a colorist is feel it. Don't worry about local colors. Don't worry what people tell you a tree's supposed to look like. Play with color. Go with your intuition. Trust
Play with
yourself.
it.
All right.
Awesome job, dude.
Beautiful. Let's keep going.
Next.
All right. Let's keep going. Oh, yes. We stopped and stared at this one a little bit, didn't we? Yes. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
This one's tight.
That's tight. Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, your turn, Tyler.
Both in terms of like execution and conceptually, this one hits all the right
Yeah.
notes for me. And this is what I mean. Like his edge work on this might be the best that we've
Yeah.
seen yet in this contest. Like everything is the right amount of detail and the right amount of like the edge work in it is just
Hmm.
finessed really, really well, all things considered. I would still, um, critique wise, I would push some of these values a little bit here and
Hmm.
there to kind of create a little more play on light, especially with some of those foreground elements. I'd get even a little darker or in light peeking on them in places, but because I still want to use even the play of light and shadow to direct the viewer eye to that throne, which everything else in the composition is doing just well in terms of suggested line and
Yeah.
form and stuff. But you could go back into with like even like a lens flare effect, and since the sun is setting behind them, you can get some of that richness. If you look at lots of sunset photos or dusk and stuff like that, you can see some of that really overly saturated color bleed out around the source of the light. In this case, the sun. So really, really good job overall, though.
Absolutely. Uh,
And I just noticed that little guy on
yeah,
the
yeah, that's
throne
why I
there when you
zoomed
zoomed
in.
in like that. Like that is
Uh,
awesome. He went.
just the whole concept
He's
of
got his little
an
minions.
ivy throne, you know? Like that's freaking brilliant. That's really smart. Like what an original concept. And again, the people are gravitated towards things they've never seen before. Yet it's the right
Hmm.
time, right? People have to be ready for it, and this is something the public would be ready for. And it's so original that this inspires other artists as well. Just the whole
This
idea, right?
this inspires me. Like I wouldn't have if I was doing this contest, I would not have come up with an idea this cool,
Not a chance. I'm way too stupid for this kind of work. But yeah,
right?
absolutely. Why are we
I
doing?
play it too safe in terms of design.
um, yeah. Another thing to mention to elaborate on what Tyler just said in terms of atmosphere and lighting and all of that stuff is one of my students, Jazz McDaniel. He from the States. He sent me a link once for a YouTube channel called Every Frame's a Painting, and it's by a cinematographer who breaks down and deconstructs and explains different types of cinematography from a visual standpoint, usually composition and atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. And wow, it's an eye opener. If you get a chance to go check it out, it's really good. And what he talks about, one of the things he talks about is what makes an image static. He was comparing, for instance, X-Men to different Japanese films and stuff like that, and he was saying Notice this director always has fire, smoke, rain, wind. There's always some kind of an atmosphere. There's always movement. Even in static
Yep.
images where man's just standing still, there's water dropping outside. There's a rainfall outside the window. He always included movement, atmospheric movement in a scene.
And this piece, yeah, like could use a little bit of
Yeah,
that to push and pull some of the
yeah.
forms.
And because this is a throne, this little buddy, this little guy over here is awesome, but we didn't spot him, right? We didn't spot him off the bat. How could you got to think, how can you use contrast and color to push to that point? Maybe there's kind of a like a hot red in that area, right? Maybe the sun, there's a bit of subsurface scattering that's creating a bit of a glow through this ivy, a reddish glow that'll immediately pull your eye there, and people will notice that little character because he's so important. These guys are climbing the stairs, worshiping this deity.
The little
We need
minions.
to know he's there. And with all of this detail and movement throughout the scene, it has to draw our eye to him. Now, compositionally, those vines do that, but we need a little extra kick so that our eyes spot that.
In terms of
Yeah,
value.
value and color too, I'd say.
Value and color.
One
Yep.
little last little detail as well is if there's a heavy use of texture, which is great, but remember you don't want to make it look photo bashed. You want to paint over that a little bit more. Add some paint over this a little bit more. Add some vines. Try to hide a little bit more of the fact that
It's fairly blended now,
yeah,
but use that contrast adjustment to like make these elements in the dark just a little bit dark. Especially you go dark on the upper right here of that
yeah,
rock and just have light maybe catching the bottom part of it because it's peeking through and hitting it in different spots. That would really help.
absolutely, absolutely.
'Cause I think the texture on all the pillars are really well done and everything.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome job,
Yes,
dude.
2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. All right.
Two thumbs
Hey,
way
we're
up.
getting through this, Tyler.
We are getting through this. We're getting better at this.
We're getting better at not talking too much, Yeah. Especially with pieces that are this complex as well. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah, was this something I just saw in Bloodborne or Dark Souls when I was playing through? Because this is giving me all those types of vibes. There's a lot going on in here, and I kind of like how otherworldly this almost feels. Like I'm not just like in some fantasy setting or something, like, but I'm in like one of those really kind of messed up and like distorted types of settings that it's really just bringing me in. Something like um, like Mad Max even, or Fist of the North Star, one of those older kind of franchises that are take place where kind of society has fallen and broken apart, and I'm getting that vibe here, and then that Prometheus aspect of it, where these new explorers are coming in and like they're finding this fallen king or emperor there, and maybe they're gonna waken him up and he's gonna kick all their asses, and there's a lot going on that I like about this
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
um, I think technically there could be like a lot of cleanup and even color variety in it because for the most part, in my opinion, this is
Yeah.
monochromatic, which it adds to that cinematic flair to it, all things considering. But like I'd still kind of even push some of the color in it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we just did playing with a little bit of temperature contrast. If you go highlights and try adding a little warmth. Just experiment with it. See what you can get with.
Yeah, but if he, like I said, like if he does what you're doing and you make like a copy of that painting on a couple different layers and you make different adjustments on
Yeah,
them and then you erase different parts of it, you can get a lot of color variation
absolutely.
and still kind of create a harmonious type of effect to it.
Absolutely.
Because we definitely don't want to lose that cinematic flair this has.
Yeah, absolutely not. Just the detail and the immersiveness of this piece, like Tyler said, is phenomenal. And there's so much going on too. There's so many different things. Like it's not
Yeah.
just a one-stop shop. There's so many different influences playing in this piece of artwork that it really sucks you in. This is a real experience looking at this piece of artwork. The one thing that really jumps out at me is because the whole composition, everything is directed towards this
Everything
character
is at that
in this
throne.
throne. But even knowing that the character is there, it's really lacking refinement. This area needs to be very
Cleaned up.
just the final render of the piece. You've put so much attention into this area and this area and this area, but the area of focus
Bring it to the
is
guy.
probably the least detailed in the entire piece. It should technically be the opposite, right? Because this is your focal point. I can barely even tell that what this character is. You know, I see the shape and stuff, but it's very difficult to make it out. I went, oh, okay, maybe there's knees and feet, and are these shoulders? Is this his chest? Is that a head? It's kind of hard to tell, so you really have to define that. You know, that's a big one. That's something you definitely
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
focus on.
Matt, clean that up, and you'll have like a really stellar piece
Yep.
here. Also, the highlights even behind them are a little too blown out, I believe. What do you think about that?
That
They're like a little too white, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, in terms of contrast, we have the bright lights next to a midtone, yet our darks are over here. And one of the quick rules, you know, for focal areas and stuff like that, is you want your highest area of contrast where the area of focus is. So I might be tempted to take the contrast down here. Let me get rid of the adjustment layer. But take away a little bit of contrast here and push the contrast there, right? You want light and dark. That juxtaposition of light and dark creates a visual vibration that is very appealing to the human eye. So you got to use that
And
trick to your advantage.
if he really used specular highlights carefully hitting the
Yep.
surface of that throne and creature, like those tell everything about a
Yeah.
texture on something, you
Yep.
know, whether is that metal, is that wet and slimy, is that type of like web, you know, how things are like highlighted like that in that type of light are really descriptive and
Yep.
perfect for setting up that mood. Like I think you have the right idea. Keep his head and stuff mostly in shadow. Like you can do all that and keep it like that mysterious element, but it still needs to be cleaned up a good amount of, you know, to get that cohesion throughout the
You need to know
piece.
what you're looking at, right? That's what's important.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you lose the story, and that's what you don't want to do, especially when you put this kind of work into a piece of artwork. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, like if you don't want to go crazy with the detail, what you want to do is still suggest that
Yeah.
detail. So like you know, you basically fake it, but it, you know, it tricks the viewer and like, yeah, there's a lot of eerie and gross stuff going on there, but maybe not so much. Not a lot of work on your end,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Really cool. This is another one. I don't think I could have come up with a better idea than this at
No.
all.
Why do you think? Listen, I'll be honest with you. The reason why Tyler and I are doing this is because we're planning on ripping all of you off and making millions of dollars.
Yes.
So thank you. I'm kidding, of course.
Keep feeding us
Adam, shut
these
up.
free concepts that we're gonna take all these ideas for that hidden game we're building, and we're
It's
gonna basically getting all these concept artists to work for us, so we don't have to pay them.
and we leave the names on them by accident, you know? Like your signature is still sitting there on the concept art, you know? Yeah. That's actually happened to me, so I'm not joking. I would never do something like that. But yeah, all right. So your turn. I'll let you start because you're good at the ball.
I like the set design of this, and actually like that lighting. This is probably like the first one I'd say that has this real type of
Yeah.
industrial feel to it, and I like by contrast that alone. But still, those types of things are a little hard to pull off. Um, just because they call for a certain degree of
Yeah.
architecture and how you light them a little more than something organically. But I could see the throne up there. It's very small. I think you just there's almost something to the simplicity of this. The way there's nothing at all happening in the
Mm.
foreground, and the entire focus is on that little guy
Yeah.
there. But still, there I get just the first vibe I get from this in particular. I don't know if it was a time constraint or something. Is that it just feels underfinished, you know?
It feels to me like when I look at this, I one of the things I really like about this is that in the other ones they're very immersive. There's a lot going on. There's lots of detail. Because this is industrial and because it's large and because it's hollow, lends itself to a very lonely feeling, which I find is I like that about it. I like the
Yeah,
cold, lonely. I love the fact that that throne is far away.
so far
It's
away.
far away. It makes you feel like he's the ruler of what? You know, like you can hear the echoes of the people walking, approaching him in the throne, the clock, clock, clock. You know, the hard heels on this, this marble floor type of thing, which I love. Um, what I would say is what could really help sell this whole idea is light. The fact that you have bright light here, and the same thing in the middle, I didn't spot that thrown right away. My eyes should filter straight through to that. So just like we've done in other pieces, if you were to come in and do, for instance, I'll try it with groups.
Like it's almost like that back wall, unless it was lit by another source, should be a bit
Yeah,
darker. Like I think this is another situation where color would really help a lot because you could have like what, like a cooler color maybe, like a yellow or something, coming in through those back vents kind of like almost like like a sky, but then like you can have that this dynamic bottom light, from below the floor crates and below the walkway and stuff that is illuminating things from like from downward going
Yeah.
up. So you underlight things, and that also in play with the light you have back there would look really
Yeah,
awesome.
you can, I can't be enough of an advocate for light. Light really is everything, you know? And you take a scene like this, and just by playing with light and color, as Tyler's saying, just by playing with light and color, you bring it to life. You make it make sense. You make it something beautiful to look at and experience just in the way that you're playing with light, right? And color, and because it's all the same thing. Remember, the
Hmm.
world we live in, what we see and everything we've experienced visually in our entire life is a play of light and color, right? Light is everything. So learn to love it and learn to exploit the laws of light and color as much as you can. And as through that, you bring a piece of artwork to life. You take it from being something that's a very good sketch, and you create something more powerful with it. Just contrast
Yeah,
and a bit more of emphasis on the focal area, and my eyes immediately went to the right spot, right? That type of idea.
I would have really loved to see this piece at a more finished level. Sorry if there's a
Don't worry
dog
about
in
it.
the background.
She's welcome to bark her head. Roar, 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 roar. Roar, roar. I'll piss her off too. Make her bark even more. How embarrassing.
Yeah,
There you go. So something like that. Just as a
you can
quick
shut the
play, but you
door.
can see I'm just thinking about how that light's going to react in that scene, how I can use it to help push my focal area, right? Beautifully done. All right. Ah, it's going to go yell at his dog now.
I'm back.
Uh,
I had to shut the door. All right, that should help.
I like her. She's singing for free in the background while we do our show. I like that.
All right, though, really cool. Let's talk about this
I
next one.
love this piece of work.
Yes, Adam likes this one.
Right.
Now this, and I'll let you start, but this is some color harmony happening here.
This is beautiful. This to me, out of all the pieces, what shines, what really stands out for this piece, and the other one we were talking, the thrown inside that the big moody kind of more traditional approach, it kind of has the same thing. It's whimsical, it's colorful, it's it's moody, it's it's and
It has
a
some character
beautiful
to it.
example of using light and color. You see what I'm saying? Do you see how alive this piece of artwork is just through the use of light and color? Okay, that dictates so much. It makes this piece so pleasing to the eyes to look at, and you mix that in with a beautiful render. A beautiful render on details like around here and around the skeleton and little details like the bird. All of these little things, these little petals and flowers and shrubbery. This feels like real nature. Real nature is very wild. It's little different varieties of plants. There's a lot of thought that went into this piece and a lot of feeling that went into this piece. And that really, to me, says a lot. I've, as such, I can stare at this all day. Like to me, this is this kind of stuff I really love personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you mix it with this kind of you have this, even though you have skeletons in there floating in the water, this piece doesn't, it's not a dark scary piece. It's a very warm and welcoming piece, right?
Yeah, it's that contrast between the two elements, like it
Yeah.
juxtaposed, like that's what is it? Gears of War, I think, is known to do that. Like beautiful, like destruction. Like everything about that world is it's in havoc. It's being attacked, but there's like they do. Who makes that? Gearbox, Gearsoft. I don't know who makes it, but they have a way with their game engine and their concept art of making that world feel really really beautiful and alive, and that's the type of um, feeling I get
Yeah,
from this.
absolutely. And you can see here, here's another, just to illustrate something that we mentioned earlier, is the use of bounced light and color. See how much the grass bouncing off and hitting off the bottom of this kind of tusk-like structure here. See how much that contributes? Bounce light hitting off the bottom here. Bounce light, everything is, the light is, photons are bouncing back and forth between everything,
Hmm.
catching and carrying light from one object to the next. I think one little critique I could make, and it's a minor one, it's not a major one, is it could use a little touch more contrast in it. Your eye is always looking for a full value range. Even if the darkest darks is just a tiny little spot and the light is just a tiny little spot, you want to experience that because otherwise your brain is not getting that full satisfaction of the piece, right? So I'm thinking like areas around here could use some beautiful contrast around, right? Find some darks. The lights are already speaking for themselves. They're already speaking for themselves, but push a little bit of the darks. Get a little bit of that contrast going on, and that will complete. To me, that'll complete the image. I wouldn't do anything beyond that in terms of detail and the actual painting itself.
I'd work the light on that crow a little bit.
This guy over here?
That's just a little too the crow up above.
Oh, here.
Like I'd make the crow above feel more painted in, like the one standing on the throne.
Yeah.
You know, like the one above feels a little too cut and pasty by
Yeah.
contrast. I mean, look how the light is on that one. It's all nice and it's part of it. That everything about him is this like cool color, and it looks like it was cut and pasted into the
Yeah,
scene.
it could feel that way a little bit for sure. And also because don't forget, because you're somebody who does enjoy the play of light, you missed a good opportunity here, you know? Like if I was to come in and just have that, if that bird's coming in, it'll also help create a focal point to draw your eye down towards the skeleton guy, which is an important factor.
Yeah,
Have him catch the light, see? Because the light is beaming in through this direction. This is going to tell the audience that it's there, and it's adding texture, it's adding movement, it's adding a directional element that's very subtle. It's a very hidden little detail, but it's something that adds a lot to the piece, right? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Awesome job
Beautiful. I
though.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Here. All right.
I do like it.
All right. So let's shrink this guy down. And I think we're on our last one, Tyler.
Yes, from
We've
John.
done it. Holy smokes.
Maybe a record time.
Yeah. I got.
I think we were scaring off new viewers because they were like, "Oh, they don't want to watch this 3-hour video of these guys rambling."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
I think having us move through with
Tyler, if it's a
better for
suggestion, I don't know
everybody.
if you're up for the suggestion. What do you think about doing it in the nude next time? No, I don't
Could
think
do a
so.
nipple slip. Could have a nipple slip on cam.
Okay, let me go put my pants on then. Yeah. Well, I'll keep people around. I'm sure.
You're wearing pants right now? Oh. I thought we agreed to do these without
All right,
pants.
let's change the subject.
We're
Why
just
did I even bring it up? Right? Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Tyler. Go ahead.
I like this. This is another one. Again, I think that the theme, the throne, of decay, is automatically brings a lot of these
Yeah,
types of moods and
yeah,
settings. Is obviously what we're seeing, and I like that here
yeah.
again. I see some inconsistencies though with the lighting that are kind of popping out to
Okay.
me immediately, and that's kind of like right behind the throne, how it's just lit up like
Uh-huh.
that. I mean, I know he knows he's got to create that contrast there, but with the way the light's set up throughout the rest of the scene, it seems too
Yeah.
synthetic. Like I'm not believing unless there's like a campfire right behind the
Mm-hmm.
throne. But I don't know if I'd want to create that type of plausibility in a scene like this. I do like how you have, and I'd push that even further, rubble debris, with the idea of those broken stained glass windows, like broken glass. I can see you started that, but again, very hard thing to do. I continue to push that idea, and I'm not sure what is happening with that blue light over there because it's the only thing blue in the scene. At this point, it's
Yeah,
distracting.
it grabs. It's definitely a
It's
intensity on
competing
that.
like 1-to-1 for the
Yeah.
throne, and over here, like what's happening?
Right.
What? I'd say if you can tie that somehow into some more elements in the scene, that's
Yep.
great. If not, just lose the
Yeah.
color. I mean, it definitely adds. It's adding something to it. Like, and I know you have an
Yeah.
idea with some type of narrative that with it, but right now, in terms of the design, it's a little bit
Because
distracting.
it's the only area of the painting that owns that color, right? And
Yep.
when our eye sees something unfamiliar,
Everything else
if
is
everything was
warm.
cold and that was hot, our eyes would look there. We're always looking for that contrast, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, also, as well, uh, like I like the blue and red. I like that look, but like Tyler's saying, it's pulling all the attention to the window when we've got a dead king sitting on a throne right in the middle of our canvas, which should be technically, if in that respect, it should be where our eyes look first.
And that's again from the structure of the scene. This is just my guess. I mean, it looks like that those are windows, so that's
Yeah.
outside. So it's like, what is outside that is causing that stark blue when just 10 feet away over here, they're outside the throne, as we can see it. There's none of that blue
Hmm.
happening. So that's another consistency thing I
Yeah.
consider.
Absolutely.
And this is just a suggestion too. Take it as you will. I'd almost have it like just sky in the background. Make it like this is up on a tower, or even throne room, not like in the bottom
Right.
floor. So I'd either like lower the tree in the back to like it's sitting like above like a second level of a
Yeah.
forest, or just have pure sky. Right now, that for me that tree, I think value wise is competing a lot with what's happening in the immediate
Hmm.
throne. So I don't. I would. This would be a case of just simplify it, and I would just remove it.
Yeah.
Just remove
Yeah.
it.
And think to yourself, okay, well, where is that? Because we have what I'm looking at. Just you got to think about. You got to decide when you're starting a piece like that. Where's my light source coming from? Right? We have this big open window. There is light coming in there. Now, is the sun way over to the left, and that's why it's shining in through those windows like that? Is it above? Because when I look at the drop shadow of the throne, it's right there, like it's like the sun hit him right off the top, and it's casting a drop shadow just under him. But maybe if you wanted to create a stronger focal point and push this narrative and pull your eye more towards the area, take that blue down. The light's still there, but the light's not shining through that window. The light's going to be shining in from behind him, casting a long shadow across the floor, right? And that creates a spookier feel. It creates a more definitive light source. All of that broken structure of the building around the window area and all that area where the tree is, where we have the broken structure, all of that will be casting drop shadows as well. Drop shadows are your best friend when it comes to drama, right? There's a lot
Hmm.
to play with. They just be more literal and be simpler with your light source. Don't overcomplicate it, right? Keep it simple.
That's
Sun, shadow.
yeah. That's the way to. I would sum that up. Is like the lighting in this is overcomplicated.
Yeah, but as a piece of artwork, it's very pretty. I mean, I love the feel. I love
Hmm.
I love the atmosphere. You're the one, as
I do
far as
like the mood.
Throne of Decay, nailed the narrative on the head, right? This is a nice piece of artwork. It's just certain ambiguities that are making us not be able to
Consistent.
quite put our finger on it, but you're almost there. Just give it a little bit of attention. Go back over it and play
Hmm.
with the light, and you should be good. Absolutely.
Awesome job.
Beautiful.
So we decided we're gonna in terms of like winners and losers. We're gonna do that thing. We're just gonna say I'm gonna say my
Yeah.
favorite piece and Adam's gonna say his favorite piece because we'll have a different reason for really liking
Yeah.
a piece, and it'll just two different perspectives is always better than just kind of one. And given the nature of these challenges is that it's kind of left open, out in the open, illustration, design, there's a lot of room to play,
Yeah.
so everyone's got something different. So we're just gonna say, hey, I like that piece the best for whatever he does, Adam does as well. So, Adam, what's your favorite piece out
I
of the
was torn
bunch?
between three, really torn. Specifically, just for my personal taste, this one over here, the one by Marcus. I just love the play of light and color in this piece. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
This one because of that very classical ghostly render, and this one again because of its beautiful play with light and color and composition. And really had a hard time picking, but I would have to go with Sam Mukiri's piece because that to me is transports me right back to my childhood. This reminds me of why I do art, So definitely Sam. Beautiful work, beautiful.
Off the bat, my favorite piece is Rhoda's.
Rhoda.
Um,
Which one are we? Oh, this
that
one there.
one
Yeah,
with the I like the idea in that, and I think overall, in terms of like the idea and the concept is like the highest levels for me. Not like this is gonna and by contrast, I think Matthew's piece, like I even might like his idea the most, but his execution isn't nearly on the same level as the
yeah.
idea for me. So that's why I'm going to ultimately go with Rhoda's is my favorite piece. But these were all definitely probably like the strongest batch of images we
We
got so
haven't seen
far on
anything.
any challenge. So
This is really the best that we've seen so far, and this every one of you guys.
they bring something so original and
And
fresh too.
professionalism, real professional work. I mean, you guys are
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? All of you. I mean, every one of you have really achieved a level of professionalism in your work in this submission. So really, my hat's off to you. I know how much work and how much dedication you put into producing this kind of work. So big respect for that, all of you. Honestly,
Yeah, awesome job,
awesome. Yeah.
guys. And just as a side note before we close, Adam runs his own private
Yep.
mentorship too. I kind of do my own thing. I have we each have the information that anyone might need on their
Yep.
website. on our website. So if you want to look up more, and yeah, we'll be continuing to do these, and it's a lot of fun for us, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well.
Absolutely. And we'll leave a link in the
So
description as well if you're interested in that as well. Okay. So all that
yeah.
info is going to be
So
sent.
thanks a lot for everyone who entered and is even watching this. This is a lot of fun. So take
Take care,
care.
everybody.